Live. All right, everybody, welcome tonight to the community development portion of the meeting for Monday, March 13th, 2023. First, before we start the meeting, I'd like to announce that I was contacted earlier today by Councilman Lippian that he could not make it tonight because he had a prior engagement. So the first item on the agenda is the approval of the community development meeting minutes from February 27th, 2023. Could I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Mitchell, seconded by
Mr. Oswald.
Mr. Oswald.
Question.
Question on the motion. All in favor of the motion, please use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion granted. Okay, item 2 is the matter for 300 4th Street from business downtown district to residential multi-household low density. Attorney R.J. Budway, please. Hold just a moment, sir. Okay, sir, just please your name and address for the record.
I'm attorney R.J. Budway. My practice is at 5505 Detroit Road, Suite E, Sheffield Village, 44054. I've been retained by Mr. Hammond in regards to this matter. Members of the committee, thank you for having us tonight. I've had a chance to meet with Mr. Hammond, and in my professional opinion, there's a number of items I think we need to address prior to even having this come through the planning committee. I'm asking that this matter be tabled till April 24th, so we can work with the law department, building department, and we also have to do some additional filings on this case in order to ever get this rezoned the way we'd like to get it rezoned.
Okay, thank you, sir. This would be the second time we would table this topic. We tabled it 2 weeks ago to tonight, and now we're just finding out now that you want to table it again. So I guess the question would be, are you reasonably sure that you would be prepared to address the committee on the 24th of April?
Yes.
Okay. We will table it, and it would be in the council chambers at 6 p.m. on April 24th.
Thank you for your consideration tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, item 2 is the matter of creating a new council committee titled the Diversity and Equity and Inclusion Committee. HR Director Yousefi.
Good evening. I have forwarded to the committee an ordinance for to create the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, which we have started working on. Wanted to get it in an ordinance format so that we can keep moving forward and have it be formalized.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I guess, so I don't know a lot about this, okay? First off, I thought we were like an equal opportunity employer. And I thought that we've always been looking at people when you're getting hired or fired. I thought we were taking care of all this. Why are we not doing a good job? Are we doing it wrong? Why do we need this board to look over somebody's shoulders? Help me out. Thank you.
This is a very difficult topic, and it runs very deep in people. And I think that while I believe that our policies and practices go along with EEOC, I think we can always do better. I think that we can have some time to do some education with our employees. I think that would be very helpful. Not just on EEOC topics, but all kinds of diversity topics. So I do think it's still necessary.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you. Are there any other questions? Mr. Stewart?
Yes, I'm not on this committee. So how many people are on this committee right now? The members of this currently right now?
Currently, we have 10 members.
Okay. And where are the meetings held? Here or?
Yeah, we do them right here in the third floor conference room.
Okay. And then at that point, when do you start moving forward with the communications with the city, with the employees, and the mindset of the message that's going to be delivered? When does that start to take place?
We already kind of started to do some of that last year. The diversity committee sponsored the employee picnic. So we did have an event at that time. We had a speaker come to that event also and had some communication around that. So as we develop more training programs, we will have more communication. So that'll be coming up soon.
And then a follow-up to that then, is there a request for monies for this?
There is on the HR budget, there is a DEI line that was added for $16,000
$16,000? Okay.
for education. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Are there any, Assistant Law Director Brenning?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm just looking through the proposed legislation, and I'm curious as to who is supposed to comprise this committee and how they're selected and chosen. I think if we're going to codify this, I think it's you know, obviously if council chooses to do this, that's great, but I want to know what the mechanics of this are going to look like, and how that's going to move forward past, you know, this is it going to be administrative appointments, council appointments? What's the plan?
It's self-appointed, so people will volunteer to be on the group, and then the group will decide. So the people that we have right now, the 10 people that are on the committee, will decide anybody else who wants to come into the group, be not in the group as a.
And are they basing that on criteria? I mean, are there specific criteria that are going to be set forth in this ordinance that they have to?
The criteria is that you're interested in serving. I do have another document that gives additional information that talks about, like, one member being on for 2 years, one member being on for 3 years, and that more detailed information, if you'd rather have that.
Well, that talks about staggering terms, and I'm happy to hear that you've addressed that matter, but I'm more curious as to how the initial appointment of members looks like and who has the say over that. Again, it might be fine now when you've got an initial committee and you want to perpetuate that, but down the road, you're going to want some mechanism. I don't know, if 8 people suddenly resign from this committee, how are they going to replace them? If there's no mechanism in the ordinance, I don't know how you do that.
Well, that's something I can add to the ordinance. I can bring it back.
That's just my suggestion. I obviously don't have a vote or say on the committee. That's just something that I would want to see considered.
Mr. Tolet?
To you, Mr. Chair, and I am not on this committee either. As head of the HR, I have 2 questions. As head of the HR department, are you certified in diversity and inclusion?
I am not. I do have a senior professional for human resources from the HRCI Academy.
But not in diversity and inclusion?
Not specifically in diversity and inclusion.
Okay. Second question, the $16,000, what is that for?
We're going to do educational programs with our employees. So, for example, I'm starting with we have a manager meeting coming up in April 25th, and we're going to have a speaker come in and speak on implicit bias.
So this is to pay speakers, or is this for luncheons?
Both. I think we're gonna do lunch and learns, we have some speakers, we'll probably have an event again in October.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Ms. Yusefi, these educational programs, are they only for the committee members, or can any employee join? Say you have a speaker come in and it's a topic they're interested in, can other employees just join?
Yeah, we're gonna do it for citywide, yes.
And where, Mr. Chair, through you, and where would those be held? Because that room is not big enough.
We'll probably have to hold it in this room.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other, yes, stand in here, your Assistant Safety Service Director, I'm sorry.
It's me, Tim.
Yeah,
It's
Thank
been
you.
a long day, sir.
Through you, Chair. Yes, so part of this is response. Mrs. Donaldson, Janine Donaldson came and did a presentation and declared the city did a proclamation some time back, and this is part of the response to that. It's professionally been encouraged that cities, municipalities, businesses develop this component, not as a watchdog, but more as an advocacy component within an organization, to make sure that we're addressing systemic bias and other issues around diversity, making sure that the workplace is not just from a code point enforced, but that there's a welcoming environment, and that it is most helpful that the employees are part of that welcoming environment and being educated, being self-educated, being open to bringing in people to help us in terms of creating that culture. I think that we have a fairly healthy culture here. So how do we then permeate that? Because there are pockets where it's healthier than others. And so how do we create that consistency? I've sat in on one or two of the meetings, and these are volunteers from the city who believe in a healthy culture. And it was important that that they were part of that organic belief culture, and that they wanted that something to be permeated throughout the city. And it was also important that this not be a committee of the administration, but it be reflective of the city and of city council representing the values of this organization, of this city. And so I think that it would be a good practice perhaps to take, and maybe if we don't take this action today, to take this ordinance, send it to law, and let's get it tightened up and see where there's maybe some loopholes or some places that we haven't, through your process, maybe crossed all the T's and dotted the I's. And that way we can come forth with something that it is a bit tighter. And so I think the spirit is to make sure that we codify this, that we put it into a space that it is permanent, that it is part of the culture, and that is not here today and gone tomorrow. So I commend Ms. Yusefi on the work that she's done and her team. They've been meeting, they've been discussing these things, and they've been creating this. So hats off to them for the diligence that they've placed in this. And I think maybe we can do a little bit more work with law and then maybe push it towards the finish line and then get council's approval, knowing that it's been vetted through those components, if that's satisfactory to everyone.
Okay. Well said, Tim. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Yusefi, so is this something that it's going to be mandatory for every employer or employee and all council? I mean, everybody. So are you going to just preach to the choir, or do you get everybody? Okay.
We're gonna try to get everybody out there.
All right.
Including council. I'd love to have you all involved.
Yeah, because I could tell you I'm clueless.
Just as a point, I did work with Amanda on this document. So it has been gone through, finance, or law already.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, then we will table this for now, and then when you're ready to bring back the ordinance, tighten it up.
Okay.
Is that the direction you want to take?
That's
okay.
fine.
Yeah, just let us know and we'll address it. Thanks again. Thank you. Okay, item 4 is the matter of a yearly or bi-yearly inspections to take place on commercial buildings to keep up with the integrity of the city's older buildings, referred by Councilmember Oswald.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I guess I don't know how many years, let's say, just say 10 years, you know, we've been having problems with some of our older buildings. Some of them are, you know, some bricks are falling off or this wall's collapsing, whatever, okay. And I think at one time they had something in place with the building department where they were going in, doing some inspections. That kind of fell off by the wayside. The only time something would get checked if by chance the fire department was in there and they seen maybe a code violation and then it was taken care of. But here recently, we've had a few issues with some of our buildings, and then we've been having more conversation with people that have been talking to me about, you know, we really need to do something, you know, our town is falling apart, and nobody's checking to make sure that they're in good working condition. You know, the integrity of the buildings are falling apart. We should do something. And I'm going to be the first one to say I don't want to have my projects inspected all the time, but for public safety sometimes, maybe we need to figure out what kind of program maybe we could implement maybe, and start going after, I don't want to say going after, but maybe working with, so that we can go into some of these buildings and, you know, work together here again and say, you know, it would be a nice idea if we could get this thing back into good working shape. You need to do this. And so, of course, I want to know why the building department hasn't been taking care of some of these issues. If it was, and yeah, Mr. Farkas can speak, but, you know, I think they're part of what could be the solution, but we need some people talking out and figure out what kind of good ideas can we come up with.
Mr. Chair, through you. Mr. Oswald, I will address the concern of the inspections you indicated that were completed. Per research, the last time a systematic was completed was in 2006. That is of the downtown area. From our records, it was not well received, as the inspections were purely exterior. Not many people wanted us inside because we can't trip over one violation to go look at another. With the exterior inspections, it created a tidal wave of people saying, why are you picking on me? Why only downtown? From our records, we did get some compliance. I think a resurgence of that could be possible. But again, I've approached council regarding staffing. I am grossly understaffed with the amount of work we have going on. If I do assign a property maintenance inspector to the downtown, I will also piggyback a construction inspector. That way we have more eyes on it and each one can look in different books. With that being said, we would have to do, as we did in the past, a blanket notification via mail, however, to everyone in the downtown. We would have to pick an area for the downtown. Are you talking everything in the business downtown district? That is a very large radius. If you're talking specific streets, Broad Street, side streets, however, we need to know, so that way the notification would be fair and consistent. If we do go out there, we will find violations, of course. Ultimately, I'm saying this for the entire panel, my hands are tied once I process this to the court system. Once it makes it to the municipal court, I become a reporter to them and say they are in compliance, they are not in compliance. Once it is in their hands, I am powerless. If a call is received, hey, Daryl, you're not doing your job, my response is, it's in court. So unfortunately, the answer is I need help from the panel to get these projects moving accordingly, because we do have quite a significant backlog of cases that are unresolved. I hope that helped.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Oswald. Okay, through you, Mr. Chair. So we know that it's difficult whenever one of us council people brings something to the table with an issue in trying to get back up, but it goes through the legal process, and the legal process tends to take a long time, and then it kind of just is like gone and doesn't get taken care of. I think that part of maybe in all this talk is we have to figure out a legal way, you know, that we can maybe speed up the process or maybe do a little nudging if there's a possibility. But maybe a suggestion too on maybe the age limit of some of these buildings, because let's just say a building was just built 10 years old and it's in downtown Elyria, it's in that area. I don't know if we have to start blanketing every single one, or are we singling out at that point and then that's illegal? So I guess, like I said, this was for discussion. I wish we could, you know, record that magic one I was hoping I had.
Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Oswald, unfortunately, regardless of a building's age, it could be 1 year old and it could be tagged with graffiti. It could have broken windows. It could have missing siding. So irregardless of the age of the structure, it is still suffering property maintenance concerns. So unfortunately, if we do a systematic, to be consistent, we would inspect each and every building and cite accordingly.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, because I see,
No, go ahead.
okay, Mr. Prenessi's walking up. So he's part of a possible solution too when he walks into these buildings and he's having to deal with same problems.
I appreciate this topic being brought up, but I will say this. What took place at Susan L's, you're not gonna, there was no indication that parapet, that facade was going to fall to the street. The one thing I will tell you is that when, just like anything else, Elyria is an older town. The buildings, you have to consider them geriatric, that they, you know, and sometimes when I say that, means that a lot of times gravity has just so much on a building. You're talking over 100 years. I will concur with Mr. Farkas that, you know, this takes staffing, it takes manpower, but a lot of this you will not know, and the building has just had enough. And you can look at a building up and down, and you're just not going to know. For instance, and I'll leave it with this, the back wall of that parapet at Susan L's had a sealant applied to it, which is the right thing to do because of the freezing and thawing. You have to protect that parapet wall. So if we were going to go up on the roof, you're going to look at that. There's no cracks. There was no indication. It was just gravity and time. Plus, we did have a strong wind that day. So anyway, I'm just be forewarned that there are going to be times you're just not going to be able to predict. I will say also from a fire standpoint, there are several vacant buildings that we pound our heads together trying to find an owner or trying to find access to get in to do an inspection, and we have no idea. The old Style Center building or whatever, or I say Style Center. I'm old. But that building has been vacant. It's 40 years. It's crazy. I mean, so that, how are we going to get in there? How are we going to get up and around that? So that's all I'll say in that. Everybody's looking where Style Center is.
Yeah.
I remember.
Well, I should know. I'm older than you are, Chief.
Yeah.
Okay, Mrs. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I will agree with Mr. Farkas about it goes to the court. We're working on something that has been, 2-3 years now, and it's in the courts. And we can't make the courts do anything. They don't report to us. They do what they do. So they tell us they're working on it. They're working on it. There's nothing we can do. But I did want to, Mr. Chair, ask the question through you, and I think Mr. Perneski answered it. We are not permitted to go inside a building without the owner's permission. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mrs. Mitchell. Short of an inspection warrant, very akin to a search warrant, I have to have probable cause in order to get such a warrant to tell the judge that I think this, and this is taking place. Without that, I am powerless to walk in and just say, hey, I'm coming inside. That's trespass. I could get arrested. If they sign a consent form, I am in. I've had many people tell me, I only want you to look at this violation because that's what I'm concerned about. And like I said, I can't trip over one violation to go look at another, and they tell me, I don't want you in my house. And I can't come in. It is a very difficult, murky situation we're in. As the judicial system, it works. It's extremely slow. And short of it being imminent danger, that's the only time myself and Joe can act, is when it's endangering public life or we have to make a decision. It's coming down now.
Assistant Law Director Bruning.
Thank you. I just want to, tack on a little bit to what Mrs. Mitchell was getting at with that as far as the court system goes in this process. I mean, and you've all seen this before. The court system is useful to a point on these types of cases, but treating them as criminal violations is problematic, and in a sense, it's fundamentally flawed. Even on the ones we are successful on, the remedy for a criminal violation is going to be either a fine or jail time. And again, we're limited as a municipality to dealing with these as misdemeanors, so you're looking at a pretty low dollar amount on a fine, and it's usually less than what the cost of repairs are going to be. So unless we want to keep on filing new cases and prosecuting them over a period of months and sometimes longer to get to a result, the end result of which is going to be a $500 fine or less, when the cost of the repair would be in the thousands, it's just not realistic to wield that club against these people and expect it to actually do any real good. So we do what we can. The results are not always what everyone would expect out of it. But to echo Mr. Farkas's point on the inspections, again, he's going to need a warrant to go in there outside of consent. So, he's looking at exterior inspections only in a blanket area. He can't do any more than that. If he has probable cause, if he gets additional information from those exterior inspections, he might be able to convince a judge to give him more. But we don't know that. That's going to be on a case-by-case basis. So I'm saying all this just to remind everyone of what realistic expectations should be for a project like this. We can certainly look at it. We can look at, tweaking what we have on the books. We can look at, maybe some alternative solutions. I don't know what those would be. Those are things we would have to talk about. But as it is now, this program that's being requested, we just need to, keep those ceilings on our expectations right now.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
go right ahead.
one last comment to Mr. Oswald. You indicated, we get this a lot, how come the building department isn't doing anything? You're more than welcome to ask. We'll pull up the data. I provided it to the administration of all the cases we have documented that have hit a brick wall. It may appear that we are not doing our job, but again, it is a vicious cycle of rinse, repeat, over and over, and our hands are tied. So please, we are out there. We are out there hitting the bricks. People are not very friendly in regards to us coming to their site saying you can't park a semi-truck on gravel in your side yard. Our ordinance is quite clear. You cannot do that. And it is, people argue up and down. They think they're right. Unfortunately, they have the right to appeal. None do. They just choose to argue and make a point of that they can do what they want to do because it's their land. I say you live in the city. We're governed under ordinance. That's why you come to the city. You want to have certain rules and regulations. There's a quality of life when you come to a city. And unfortunately, the way our system is now, we cannot keep up.
Mr. Tolet.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Just to bring back to light something that took place in this last year to this committee, Shane Furniture, for how many years, was condemned. There was 10 feet of water in the basement for years, and that building was rotting, just waiting to hurt someone from our police department, our fire department, our building department, our engineering department, and it took years for us to get that down. And we were fighting with an estate. We weren't even negotiating with a real person. It was an estate that we were dealing with, so, is that accurate?
Close enough.
Close enough, okay. That's the law anyway, but, no, we have to remember that what the building department does is, and fire department, is very fragile, and we have to be careful with our businesses here in town.
And to your point, Mr. Tolet, I mean, that was a situation where the building department actually issued a repair or demolish notice. That's a little bit different, I think, than most of these that we're dealing with. Actually, it's quite a bit different. I mean, in that case, we were able to deal with it because it got past the point of no return. Most of these, the vast majority of them, hopefully, are not at that point and hopefully never will be at that point. So, you know, the stakes are smaller to an extent, but it also ties our hands a little bit more as far as the civil remedies, our ability to, you know, enforce a repair or demolish. We have a clear path. It might be an expensive path, but we do have an option there. We can take the owner's responsibility on ourselves and, you know, undertake that demolition. For these other violations, that's not what we're talking about at all.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Bruning. That is correct. There is such a scale of severity. We get quite a few complaints where people say, just go look at it, it doesn't look right. We have to have just cause. You have to be specific in regards to filing a complaint, as in, does it have trash in the front yard? Are there cars, no license plates? Are there tires strewn about? That is something we can enforce under the property maintenance code. If you say, I don't like the look of their fake flowers, that is aesthetic. I cannot govern that. It is a very, very delicate issue. So when you guys request a complaint, we will investigate. We just have to have what it is. Once we get there, we may find other violations. As Mr. Bruning said, it could be as minor as some peeling paint. Someone next door could be selling their home and they don't want to look at peeling paint because in their mind it brings their home value down, and rightly so. Some of them are really bad, where the porches are loaded up with debris and junk, and the front yard is just strewn with trash. Each one of these cases are important. We do handle them, but again, we do hit that brick wall of we only can take it so far. We cannot take the law into our own hands.
Thank you. Mrs. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Mr. Farkas, I appreciate you. I know I bug your eyeballs out, so I thank you for that. But we have an instance, we have something that the building department has been working on, and the courts wanted to know if this individual was in compliance. And he is in compliance. So does that mean he's cool, good to go until he's not in compliance again?
Mr. Chair, to Mrs. Mitchell, at the moment when the inspection was made, the property is in compliance. That can change tomorrow.
And it probably will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. Chair. This is what I wanted some discussion, because I think I think we can do better. It wasn't brought up to say the building department's not doing a good job. The council people aren't doing a good job. The courts aren't doing a good job. It's not to bring those things. We're all trying, but I think we can do better if we have more conversation and try to come up with some more ideas. Now, I'm with you on that facade that come down, okay, at the candy shop of Susan L's, but I remember over there in the corner of West River and East Broad, where I think it was down by Burger King, where Burger King is right now, there was a building there, and the whole side of the brick comes sliding down. Now, sometimes you see bricks falling down, and it's an I better go check that. You know, the Shane Building, a couple of bricks fall out. I better check that. Some things you can't figure out like that. All of a sudden it happens. Same way with the building across from the old Bodemers, where that facade come off. You know, sometimes you don't see all that stuff, but they're eye openers, things that we should try to start paying attention to. And maybe we should try to think about doing things a little bit better. I know you got it rough. I know the courts have it rough. And I know we have it rough, because we take the blunt a lot of times of what Ms. Mitchell just said. It's in the courts. So we're going to try to do a better job, all of us. I would like to see. That's why I brought it to the attention. And if we have more suggestions, let everybody know and see what we can do to do a better job. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Chair, I'm not on this committee, I just want to comment, and I'm glad we're having this discussion, and we're talking about, commercial buildings, but and we really want to talk about housing also in this. Somewhere in there, we need, with it hitting the brick wall, I mean, we're hitting the court with the brick wall. I have a case that is disgraceful to the city of Elyria, and it's hitting this wall. Somewhere in there, we all need to talk. We need the building department, we need to be able to talk to the courts. Somewhere we need to get together to see what is wrong, what we got to do to move this along. It shouldn't be nothing that takes 2 years to send somebody out to say, this is wrong. We know it's wrong. And we shouldn't have to look at this problem on the city, coming into our city, and we have to endure this just because the courts haven't gotten to it yet? I don't think so. So we need to come together with the courts and talk about this and see how we can make a solution to what's on the docket.
To you, Mr. Chair, to Mrs. Davis, I would absolutely agree. I think what's missing is the pride in ownership that has seemed to have slipped away, where no one looks. You own a building, you know what's going on with your building. You may not have the money to repair it. It shouldn't take the building department to say, you have to fix it. It should be this I want to fix it, I want to take care of it. And I will close with this. I've had a repeat offender say this to me in a court system: it's cheaper to go to court than it is to fix it. It mirrors exactly what Mr. Bruning indicated, and that holds true over and over. Thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, obviously, it's always good to review these things from time to time. So I think at least just bringing up and having a discussion and having open dialogue was very healthy. So I appreciate you bringing it to us and at least having the discussion. We'll just put this in pending items for now, and we'll move on from there. There's no further business for community development. Mr. Oswald, go right ahead.
If I could just take a minute or two. On Monday, we had or Tuesday, I think it was, we had the ODNR guy come and talk to us about our deer population issue in the city of Elyria. I think we had a lot of good questions. We had a lot of good answers. We don't have all the answers how to fix the problem. We need some solutions. There again, I don't have the magic wand with me again, but we're going to have, Colleen's going to type up the minutes for that meeting, and everybody's going to get it in their box. I'd love you to read it, and then we're going to bring it back in a referral, and then in the committee that would be community development, and hash over some good ideas, and we'll let everybody know what's going on. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Oswald. Okay, seeing no further business for community development, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Oswald, seconded by Mrs. Mitchell.
Question.
Question on the motion. All in favor of the motion, please use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried, meeting adjourned.
Hey, Tom, is this yours? Tom, is this your phone? And tablet? Issue tablet? City issue tablet? Would you want to? Oh, he was filling, I gotcha.
Well, yeah, I was doing that. I mean, I have no qualm saying about the rest, but then again, it's budget. Law director probably should. Sometimes you just
For those in the audience, we're just waiting for the clerk's office to redo the tape or get a tape going. So. Okay, we're going to continue on with finance. For the record, item number 5 will be removed from the agenda, and we'll put that in pending items. First on the agenda is the approval of the finance meeting minutes for February 27th, 2023. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah, second by Mr. Schneider. Is there any further discussion?
Question?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item number 2, we've considered the matter of inactive delinquent public utility accounts. A resolution authorized said delinquent accounts to be certified to the Lorraine County Auditor's Office per the attached list. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sierra,
Second.
second by Mr. Schneider. Ms. Connor.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the list has been provided in regards to the inactive accounts, and was approved by our resolution board on March 3rd.
Okay. I do have a question in regards to 2 items, well, all of them, but there's actually 3 on here. 1604 Middle Avenue, 901 Cleveland Street, which is the Bendix, and then obviously the High Point in the Park at the last item is $43,304. And their last payment was in October of, looks like maybe 22. I'm guessing based on the comments on the far right column. But can you walk us through the process? I mean, more so with the High Point in the Park being, I know that's an apartment complex.
Yes, if we start at the bottom, the High Point in the Park, I've talked to the manager out there, and I've also sent certified letters to both of the owners of record. We've got no response. $43,000 was the amount that we were able to put out for lien at that time. Their bill now is at $71,000. We're not getting any response from them, so I'm not sure what is their situation. Then with the Bendix, those are 2 bills that were back from September and October that have not been paid, and they're skipping over. We've sent certified letters to them and gotten no response back from them. Dawn Calvert has talked to her contacts there with no success.
So I see that the 71,000 is off to the bottom right. I see that's what you were referring to.
Yes, but we have to let it sit for 60 days before, so the time the process runs through. So you will probably see another one next month for us to recover that. That does make me quite nervous. A lot of money.
I'm going to defer to the law director, Deary. I mean, I know not to, can you weigh some, other than what Ms. Connor is informing us of, what more is there that we can do?
Mr. Chair, you're referring to the High Point in the Park.
Yes.
It is typically the policy of the city when you're dealing with a multi-unit complex such as High Point to not shut off services due to the fact that you're dealing with, tenants and in a landlord situation. I'm not completely familiar with that particular complex, and Mrs. Connor, you could confirm it, but I'm guessing that there is no way to shut off individual units there. Yeah, so in this type of situation, what we do typically do is lien the property due to the fact that, basically you're going to be punishing tenants for the faults of a landlord. Although this is escalating to the point where we're going to need to do, some sort of intervention, obviously, rather than just keep sending liens over. I'm not saying don't send the liens over. I'm just saying there's additional action that we're going to need to look into.
Right.
This is the first that I've heard of this situation there at High Point.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And I would recommend that the same for Bendix as well. I mean, they're no longer, I don't know if there's any, if they're still working within the, area here or not, if there's still some operational business, Mr. Pileski, that you're seeing through. But that's just another issue of a company that is moved, and here yet we're trying to still obtain close to $6,200 in.
Well, sorry
Yeah.
to jump on Mr. Plesky's coattails, but I mean, through you, Mr. Chair, I mean, they're still a viable business, even if they're not doing business in the city. So again, that's something that, you know.
Sure, I understand. I think it just needs to be
That needs to be
addressed.
brought to, you know, this is the first that I've heard of this as well.
Sure, understand. So I would recommend that, Ms. Connor and coordinating with the law director's office and a path moving forward that we can kind of get some resolution to this. It is concerning. Does anybody have any questions, on the panel? Ms. Davis, and then I'll come to you, Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Chair. Are these residents, I know the apartments aren't cut off, but all these others on here that, is their water off?
Yes, some of these are properties that have been sold, and there was not funds held in escrow to pay those. So we've had a new person sign in, and nothing has happened. So we have to take this course of action.
Through you, Chair. So if the house is sold, would it be that the new owner, I know the new owner is not responsible, but before you turn their water on, wouldn't they would have to have this bill, you know, you go after the past owner to get this bill paid before you turn it on for the new owner?
Well, the bill stays with the property. So when the person comes to sign in with new paperwork, we tell them there's a past due bill. Was their money held in escrow? And then they have some time to work through the escrow agent to follow through with that. And then if that doesn't happen, then it stays with the property, so then the new owner becomes liable for it. And they've already signed in for service and the water's on. So it would be, we don't go back out and shut them off, it just starts the lien process. That's why we send them a certified letter.
Through you, Chair. So the ones that owe the bill, you send them a certified letter, or you send it to this address where they used to live?
We send it to the new owner to let them know that it has not been paid. Who's ever the owner of record on the tax records at this time.
Mr. Tolet.
Through you. Normally, isn't most of this found during a title search if there's a lien on the property for old water bills? That way it could be pulled out of escrow at that time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, usually it gets followed through. With the amount of transactions we have, this is really a small piece.
Sure. Mr. Sierra, did you have a question? I know that Mr. Oswald had his hands up. Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. Chair, and I'm not on this committee, but this is for Ms. Connors. With the problem at High Point, do each one of those apartments have a meter and they pay their own water bill, or does High Point get one total water meter and they pay the bill?
Right, Mr. Chair, yes, High Point gets one bill for the whole complex. So I'm guessing that part of their water is part of their rent.
Sure.
So that's why the policy's always been not to shut them off, because we're penalizing people that are probably paying.
And I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, and it's a lot easier than how many apartments we have to send bills to. I get it.
Right.
So, okay, I was curious. Thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Call for the question. Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, Ms. Connor.
Thank you.
Item number 3. To consider the matter of advertising for bids and enter into a contract for the purchase of cameras and equipment from the Violent Crime Reduction Grant. Cameras must be compatible with the current camera system. This is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter a contract for the said equipment for the Elyria Police Department. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sierra, second by Ms. Davis. Chief Pelko.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. So we applied for and were awarded money for the Violent Crime Reduction Grant. Money has been appropriated, and we would like to expand upon the current system that's being deployed in the city by communications. And with that said, it's my understanding from talking to Mr. Bruning that I got to put out for bid, since it's over $50,000, to solicit people for these cameras in the system. With that said, the logical part of me says, we already got a system in place that we're working with, that Larry Showalter is currently building out. I think it does not make sense to have other camera systems and other camera operation integrated into the current system that we're using. Now, I don't know if logical and legal, where we fall with that, but I would just like to expand on the current system that we have, if we could, with that said.
So these are, for the cameras that are before us, would not be compatible to what we have now? Is that what you're saying? Or?
Well, what I'm saying is I'd like to stick with the system that Larry Showalter is. It'll all be one system. It'll be all the same cameras that we're using. Everything will be the same. The software will be the same. They'll all be integrated into one. And that would be part of the bidding process that we'd have to put in there, that they would have to be compatible. And I don't know if anybody would have the same software as the companies that we're using now.
Okay. I would agree with you 100% that they would have to be, that all the same system. That would be the goal. I don't know if Law Director Deere, if you want to weigh in on what's being asked by the chief, or what recommendations that could be there.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Chief, to the extent that you know, and maybe this would be a question for Mr. Showalter, but are any of them on a state purchasing list?
They are not.
They're not?
No.
And to the extent that you know, are any of them, is there only one vendor that has these? I'm guessing probably not.
There's not.
Okay, so yeah, you knew where I'm going with this. So,
Nope.
So, I would say that probably the way that you phrased it, as far as that the bid would be shaped to say, look, in order to be responsive, you're going to have to be compatible with what we have. And obviously it's over 50,000, which is what is bringing you here tonight.
Right, it's almost $160,000 total for for the project.
Yeah, so I think that it may very well be that when you go out for bids, you may not have very many responsive bidders because of how narrowly tailored it's going to be, but we won't know until you go out. So, it probably doesn't really answer your question, but.
But I was just hoping, I don't know if we could have skipped that process because it would have let us start sooner, but I understand.
Sorry.
Does anybody from the committee have any questions for the chief in regards to what's being brought before us? All right, Chief, we have a motion. We do have a second. Is there any further discussion? Question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, Chief. Item number 4, we consider the matter of demolition charges. A resolution authorizing the charges for the cost of the demolition at the property at 144 Irondale Street to be certified to the Lorraine County Auditor's Office on a lien to be placed on the property. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah, second by Ms. Davis. By Mr. Farkas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. The City of Elyria Building Department received a complaint from the fire department as they were called out to an active fire on January 8th for the detached garage. Subsequently, after extinguishing the fire, the structure was approximately 60% damaged. We went out to inspect it and determined it to be unsafe. I subsequently ordered a preliminary judicial report to find ownership. Unfortunately, the owner is deceased, as is the next of kin, the daughter. So we posted the site, and unfortunately, after 5 days, had to get a contractor out there to take it down in an emergency situation. That was for $2,500. Subsequently, about a month later, the Elyria Police Department was called out for a trespass, and they found the structure unsecured. Now, we were out there months and months ago and had secured it, but someone, again, had vandalized it, broke in. The Elyria Police Department ordered it to be resecured. They called Platinum out, and the bill went to our department. So I'm going to bundle that and put this into one lien and cover it under our demo fund but I wanted to bring that to the board's attention.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Mr. Farkas with what's being brought before us?
Call for the
Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Okay. As I said, item number 5 is removed and put into pending items. Item number 6. We've considered the matter of additional residential street resurfacing. An ordinance authorizing the appropriate ARPA funds for additional residential street resurfacing in the amount of, this is a referral by Mr. Sierra. That amount is not in here. Now, $1 million. Right. So it is $1 million on the second page of this referral. So, can I get a motion just to get it on the floor for?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Tolet.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schneider. Mr. Sarah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this just seemed like a good time. There's going to be some streets, especially in my ward, and I don't certainly expect all this money to go to that, that we're going to either have to cut off short and come back possibly next year, or not be able to complete, enough of them. This is one way that we can get back to the residents with some funding that we got through the government, and I would just like to see this move through.
Okay. Mr. Tolet, and then I would have Ms. McKillips, if you can come up.
I'd rather Ms. McKillips go
Okay.
first, please.
Ms. McKillips, if you can come up. And I don't disagree with you, Mr. Sarah, in regards to, putting the money where, our residents see the impact. And I know that that's all part of the amount of money that was put into issue 6. So I know that kind of dovetails a little bit, but I think it's important to know what has been earmarked for the streets program this year. And really the viability of, if we move forward with another $1 million, is that some of these projects ascertainable throughout the whole year? I mean, doing potentially $3 million worth of streets, is that viable this year? So with that being said, if you can kind of, what we've somewhat dedicated thus far, or what we will be dedicating for the streets and for 2023.
So through issue 6 to date, through you, Mr. Chair, we have $1.9 to $2 million available. The list that we have of streets with the estimated amounts, these are streets that ward council members selected through the ride-along process, through whatever other process that they deem necessary, that these streets get resurfaced, repairs, whatever the case is. That totals $4.35 million. As far as the capacity of doing more than the original allocated, let's say $2 million worth of work, additional funds would basically just add to the existing projects that we would be bidding out. So we would be bidding out an asphalt contract, concrete repair contract, and we may be looking at doing a third contract with another, I don't want to say method, but another resurfacing process, and trying, basically piloting a program. But yes, we can, bottom line is, we can spend that additional $1 million.
So then would it be, I know that in a conversation with Mr. Sierra, that there might be a street in his ward that is going to fall short maybe of where he would like, but he could extend that street, instead of doing it, maybe in 2024, it could be, would that be a goal of what would that, just kind of evaluate those streets while they're there and extending the project on those particular streets, or would it just be reevaluating those initial ones that didn't get selected in this go-around?
Well, in the case of Ward 7, we do have several streets that, because of the length of it, we did section off. So we did, let's say 1 block, but these are very long blocks. And second block, we would look at, if we didn't do it this year, we would just, that would be one street that we would look at using this $1 million for. And that's a ward where there's several other streets that didn't even make the list. But like I said, this current list is $4.35 million, so we have plenty of streets on this list to utilize that extra $1 million.
Okay. Mr. Tolet, you had a question or comment?
Through you, this is a comment only for the audience that's here. What the question is, not whether we should pass this. If we couldn't get physically all this work done in this calendar year, or if we appropriate this additional $1 million, would potentially half of it get done this year, then the other half get pushed to next year? That's the question that we're just speaking to. Not does it need done, but how would it be done, if that makes sense? 'Cause you can only, we've got all these streets torn up right now, which is a good thing because they're all being repaired, replaced, corrected, and we want to make sure that we don't overpromise and underdeliver. Thank you.
Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I'm not on this committee, but I have consistently asked for more money to go to streets. I mean, I'm up here begging regularly. So thank you, Mr. Sarah, for making that referral. $2 million, it sounds like a lot of money, but when you're talking streets, it's nothing. I think each ward, out of each 7 wards, each ward gets $280,000. That's nothing. Now, Mr. Sarah will not get that whole $1 million. That ain't gonna happen. We will divide that evenly between all 7. I'm just saying that.
Not on your watch, right?
We will divide that evenly between all 7 wards. But if we can do more residential streets, then I think absolutely we should do that. And we're going to have a demonstration on April 12th of a new method of something with the pavement, something, so, which could help us stretch our dollars. So I'm all for it.
Sure, yes, thank you, Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you.
Ms. Davis?
And through you, Chair, the list that we just showed, that's another thing that the people need to know. That's just part of the list. That's just the one that just made it. We have streets still in our area that's 2 and 3 that really need to be on the list too, but they just couldn't even make it to the list. So I'm sure if we really put our list out there, we're over $15 million into repair. Because when I look at my mall area just by itself, I'm just millions, just area, and one street didn't even make the list that people not even think about. Just drive down by the banks and see which you'll be calling me that didn't even make the list. So we don't want you to be fooled that this is just part of a list that's a list that we just trying to touch and make it comfortable for our residents, as we promised from issue 6.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Mr. Sarah?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So a couple of points. One, I don't want to dismiss anything about issue 6. Up till now, from 2016, counting this year's round, we've looked at about $12 million in road resurfacing, which I think is outstanding. When we sold this originally, the number I believe was $1.5 million a year on an average, and I think we've exceeded that or been real close to it. With this $1 million, this will benefit anybody that, is any close to needing a street by accelerating that a little bit. Even if they're not on this particular list, it'll get done in the next cycle or even 2 cycles, down the road, but sooner than what we had planned. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald?
Of course, I'm not on this committee, but through you, Mr. Chair, this is from Ms. McKellips. That pilot program looks interesting. Are they thinking that this could save us money on how we're doing?
Yes, that's their pitch for this method is saving money, saving time, And, you know, of course, we'll need to pilot it, but the end result is pretty close to a regular mill and fill.
Thank you.
That, you know, still needs to be seen.
Mr. Sarah?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just for the record, I got plenty of streets that you can try for a pilot.
So does Ms. Mitchell. Okay, well, so, I'm sorry, Ms. Mitchell, what was the date, or Ms. McKellips, what is the date for the introduction of this program that we're trying to?
It'll be at the next utilities meeting, which is April 12th at 6:00 PM.
Okay.
Right now, right.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. McKellips. Is there any further discussion on what was been brought before with Mr. Lundy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I would just point out, I don't know if you folks get many calls, but, you know, we hear comments around the community about a lot of construction going on at this time. So I think that was pointed out as you weigh this decision here too. And I think each ward picked up, you said about 280,000, I think it was. And so even if you evenly divided this amount, that's about 142,000 additional dollars. I think most of those, from what I saw the streets list, I think there were a number of them that were over $600,000 or $800,000 worth of work in each. So I just wanted to, you know, have you think and ponder a little bit about all the work that's currently going on and how much additional work could conceivably get done if you use a dividing factor per ward as to what might be coming into each ward. But I understand, I used to be a council person too, and I know how people want to get the streets done. I get it. But just wanted you to keep the other things in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lundy. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Finance Director Pileski?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So if you choose to do this, this would have to come under the category of revenue replacement. So according to the ARPA rules, I have to calculate lost revenue for 2020, 2021, and 2022. So I'm working on the formula for 2022. So just to make it clear that this would fall under revenue replacement, and the first 2 years calculation was about 5 million each. So I'm sure 2023 is going to be somewhere close. So this 1 million is going to come off of what's available for revenue replacement moving forward. And excuse me.
So with that being said, there'll be more discussion that's going to take place in the next item for the 23 permanent budget. If we move forward, are you recommending that we can move forward with this if this committee chooses to at this particular time, or is it, I'm just trying to simplify things, if there's other conversations that are going to take place in the next agenda?
Yeah, I would say, you can move forward whether that's what you choose,
Sure.
but I think it's going to be a part of a larger discussion on what we're doing with the remaining ARPA monies.
Sure.
And how much of it is going to be under revenue replacement.
Sure. Okay. So the legislation in front of us, based on the conversations and the comments made by the finance director, we have a motion and we have a second.
Call for the question.
Question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Okay. Item number 7. Of the permanent appropriations for the 2023 year, in order to authorize the permanent appropriations for the city of Elyria for the 2023 annual budget. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Sarah, second by Mr. Schneider. I know we've had some conversations for some time when this was initially brought in by the administration. And it's been gone through the budget process with meeting department heads, and the hard work and the effort that's been put into place. And we're here tonight to kind of revisit those conversations. At this time, I'm going to defer to the finance director and Mr. Farrell jointly to kind of go through the budget that's here in front of us, and touch on the highlights of what's being proposed. So Finance Director Plesky.
Through you, Mr. Chair, so I believe the only two changes from when we discussed this 2 weeks ago is we added $400,000 to ARPA for the purchase of radios for the fire department. And we had to tweak the ARPA grant that we are receiving from the state for the police department to match what the state wanted to see, because it's going to be a 2-year grant. So we had to tweak that a little bit. Those are, I believe, are the only two changes that have taken place since we met 2 weeks ago and discussed the budget.
Yeah, I wasn't here at the last two meetings, so I just kind of wanted to kind of touch base on those. So it appears right now, based on what's in front of us here, the American Rescue Plan Act, there's $7,414,124 to be appropriated. And then a committee report was kind of passed now for consideration on the 20th for another $1 million. So that brings it down to, if it passes through the committee or council, down to $6,414,000, give or take. So that's what's left to consider for ARPA funds for use. There's been conversations about other uses of the ARPA funds, what we felt that would be assets to the city, that we are going to be considering here.
So through you, Mr. Chair, the current budget that you have before you and that we've discussed, if you want me to go through each program under ARPA, I can do that.
Sure. Just so that there's clarity on it,
Okay.
just on what's out there, what's left, and then I'm going to defer to Mr. Tollett.
So under the American Rescue Plan Act Fund, under Public Health, Community Violence Program, we've appropriated $114,844. And that may cover an open, some of these are just going to be carryover encumbrances from the prior year. Moving down under negative economic development, economic improvement, qualified census, there's nothing appropriated. Negative economic impact, home beautification, $250,000. Negative economic impact, essential services, $231,141. Nothing under the small business negative economic impact. Under revenue replacement, Muni Court, $229,611. Under revenue replacement, fire department, $1.9 million, and that would be $1.5 million for wages and benefits and $400,000 for the radios. Under revenue replacement sanitation, nothing at this time. Revenue replacement police, $1.5 million, and that is for salary and wages. Revenue replacement parks and rec, $250,000. Revenue replacement streets, $243,452. revenue replacement miscellaneous, 200,000. And then negative economic impact essential services capital, 150,000. That is for the commitment that council made to Neighborhood Alliance for their kitchen, which we have not paid yet. And then the final department is the grant that the ARPA money that we're receiving from the state. So we're a sub-recipient of the state's ARPA money. That is the State of Ohio EPD Department, $1,382,756. So that's what is currently in the budget before you for American Rescue Plan Act.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions in regards to that? What was just broken down by Finance Director Pulaski with what's currently in the queue for the ARPA funds? Ms. Davis.
Through you, Chair. I thought sanitation had $1 million.
They had $1 million last year. We have not put anything in there for this year yet.
Well, we haven't had me. Okay.
Does anybody else have just in those initial conversations with regards to ARPA? Okay. If you could, before Mr. Tolet speaks, can you kind of go over the 0.5% income tax that we know as the 2016 0.5% income tax? I think there's $1 million still left to be allocated for out of that fund, or $1,117,000. I don't know if that's viable for you, John, or not.
Yes, there's still $1,117,000 unappropriated in the 2016.50% income tax fund, also known as Issue 6.
Right. That's still left to be
Yeah. So do you want to know what's appropriated?
Yes, if you could, just to kind of break that item down as well, if you're.
Okay, so in the 2015 or 2016.50% income tax fund in the police department, $1,707,706. That is mainly for I believe we're paying for 10 of the most recent hires out of Issue 6, and that also includes some operating and some, probably some police cars. $224,000 in capital outlay. In the Parks and Rec under Issue 6, $2,706,232. Most of that is, actually all that is in capital outlay for parks projects called for by the Parks Plan.
Okay.
In the Economic Development Department, $1,515,397. In the Street Department, Street Repair Department, $2,319,525. Under Basic City Services, $1,600,711. And under Capital Needs, $2,545,342.
Okay. Any questions from the committee or from the panel just in regards to the Issue 6? I think we're just trying to explain those, really, it's those two funds that are critical, for us moving forward, and the uses of those money and what we are trying to commit to our residents in moving forward. So, thank you, Mr. Pulaski. So, there were some conversations early on in the budget process about other opportunities for the ARPA funds, and Mr. Tolet, I'll defer to you in regards to some things that we want to consider. a light on that, so.
Okay, thank you all for being patient with that. When the budget comes around every year, it's a tough decision for all of us to talk about and make. One of the quotes that the mayor said, and I agree, for the first time ever in our city's history, we have ARPA funds. We've never had that. So it is a generational thinking on how to spend it. To Mr. Sarah's point, on these streets, $1 million added in makes all the difference in the world, and new streets last for many, many years. Well, there's some other things that last for years too. Loans that the city has. They last forever. For a long time, excuse me. So when this first started, and this is going back a couple years, I reached out to several department heads, and what do you, not a want, but a need, what is needed? And potentially sometimes they'll say things to us as council that's a little bit different than the administration. I'll say it that way. So one of the things that came up is from the sanitation department. For long-lasting investment, we need 3 new trucks. It's as simple as that. Now, the cost of the trucks, as I have here, if you can see that, is $1,218,000. But what I'm going to ask for sanitation is $1,500,000. Can you see? Doggone it. It's hard to see that. This is the actual quote on 3 new trucks. And the sanitation department, when we think of trucks, we think of just the arms coming out, lifting from the side. The sanitation has numerous types of trucks. So what I'm going to propose, not in this budget, and Safety Service Director Lundy, Mr. Williams, this is not for this budget. This is to be referred to our next Finance Committee meeting so that we can approve the budget, get it sent over, close out March, and the bonuses that we're committed to for the police department can be paid right away. So we make that on time. Now, we're looking at $1.5 million in the budget proposal for 3 new sanitation trucks. Here's where the financing versus cash comes in, and this is interesting. On a new fire apparatus with a ladder, if we write a check for it, it's $1,765,000. If we finance it, the price goes up because we financed it. And let me show you that amortization. We would pay for that $1,700,000 truck and this is at 4% in bond issuance, $2,245,820. So as a savings just on the fire truck, the savings to the taxpayers is $500,000 if we write a check for ARPA. What could the city do with that $500,000? Could it go towards more streets? If we do the same thing on the 1.5 for the sanitation trucks that we need, we save another $500,000. That's over the course of time. We don't get a check back for $1 million. That's the generational thinking that I used in our budget. Let me go back to my notes. And then the last item that I will send is $1 million additional to be divided between police and fire, $500,000 each for staffing and or potential emergency equipment needs that will add to the 1.5 of each department that you've already received. The expense total on that is $4.31 million. That leaves between issue 6 and ARPA $3.4 million in additional dollars for us as a council and administration to talk about what we're going to do with that. Could it in the future be a down payment on a central maintenance garage? Could it be, there's a lot of different things that we can discuss, but it gives us time. Then we get the budget in, the bonuses can go out, all the things that we need can happen. But I wanted everyone to see actual facts and figures that went along with the budget. So, but these additional items, the fire truck, the sanitation, the $1 million for police and fire, will go on the next finance meeting as a referral to go into the budget if passed on, I believe, April 4th. So I just wanted everybody to understand how that works. So there's no magic being played. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Tolet. So the bottom line is, I guess, with these ARPA funds, these are needs that our department heads have come and then expressed, to provide these services. And we have forgive me, Chief Prodesti, if I misspeak, is the apparatus that we're looking for is the aerial apparatus is 14 or 15 years old. The lead time on this apparatus is 3 years. So we're going to be looking at an 18-year-old apparatus and a lead time of 3 years. So the longer we wait, which increases the price of each pieces of equipment. That would hold true too as far as the sanitation trucks. So they're not splashy, those considerations that are out there, but those are needs that are important that really need to be seriously considered at the next Finance Committee meeting. So I think we just kind of wanted to bring that, Mr. Tolet wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, some of the considerations that are there. And there's other considerations that can be brought to as well, the need of it. We have this money to do. There's needs all over our city. There is, and those are what the conversations that need to be had and continue on. But it's important that this budget gets passed because we're in a timeline by the end of this month. And I see that the mayor is not here. Does the administration want to make a comment in regards to what's thus far talked about or what's their feelings on the budget?
Yeah, we all know in city government the needs never go away. And, You know, I think too often in government doesn't get credited for trying to stretch the dollar. And by stretching the dollar, that means that, you know, we try to maximize the lifespan of whatever the equipment is, but eventually it hits a point where you got to replace it. I just wanted to thank council tonight for your support in wanting to move forward with a new fire truck. The mayor did make a referral to council last week for a new aerial and also for radios to support our fire department. And just want to thank council for being in support of these very important investments.
Through you, just so everyone on this committee is understanding, the truck is not in the budget. Only the radios were added to the budget at this time, just so that's clear. The mayor, I think, just approved the truck this week at some point, and the radios to go in under the ARPA since our last week's meeting. So I wanted that everyone, before they voted, that the truck is not in this. It's not in this. It will go before finance on the 27th. Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir, through the chair. Also, I would encourage at that finance committee meeting, other ideas that council may have about ARPA expenditures to bring those forward. And to Ms. Davis, I think there was a conversation that's been going on I don't know if it's in lieu of the sanitation fund piece, but I know there was discussion about finding a way to support seniors in their water bills. And that's a discussion that's going on with, I think maybe Ms. Mitchell is part of that conversation. I'm not sure exactly who from council is there, but I know there have been discussions on creating some kind of a relief fund with ARPA funds to address that. And I'm not sure exactly where that's at, but I'll touch base and get back with you on that also.
Ms. Davis, can you share anything more on that or what you know?
Through you, Chair, I had a meeting with the mayor, so we had to discuss, and we just need to come up with a plan of how we was going to reach out to the resident of their qualifying to receive it. So I will get in touch with him as soon as possible, because I don't want this to go until we help our seniors, and this is a way we can through the ARPA funds and through the sanitation.
Water Director Deary.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. And I would imagine that this will happen, but Councilwoman Davis, I would just ask that any details that you would run that past Director Pulaski and also my office, because as you know, money that goes towards ARPA monies that would go towards, say, sanitation, that would affect the sanitation rate. It wouldn't necessarily affect the sewer rate, the sanitary sewer rate, or the stormwater rate, or the water rates. It would affect the utility bill as a whole, but, you know, those funds can't be mixed, et cetera, et cetera. And so we obviously want to make sure that we, you know, cross our T's, dot our I's, and that sort of thing.
Let's throw Mr. Pulaski through you, and maybe you're going to comment, but I'll ask the question. So what's being discussed with the potential savings, you know, to maybe offset water bills or sewer bills or whatever that case may be, I guess running that through the Office of Business Management, is that, and I guess we have a consultant who is advising us on things, is that part of the discussions that have been taking place, or if you're familiar with what's been talked about?
Through you, Chair, no, I have not been part of those discussions. We have reached out to the Office of Budget Management regarding the Ukrainian program, but that was like a year ago. But no, I've not been part of the discussions as far as relief on the utility bills.
Okay, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Just to be clear, now the 1 million for the streets, do you want that added to the budget? So we will be changing the exhibit to
we have to vote on it first. We have to vote on this budget as a committee.
Okay. Right.
I'm sorry, Mr.
No, it's okay. No, so so just to confirm, the $1 million is being into this budget? Yes. Yes. So that $1 million will be appropriated into this budget here tonight. Yes. Is there any further discussion in regards to what's being discussed here tonight? The budget in its entirety, a lot of effort and work, again, went through with the finance director's office and department heads. So,
Through you, Mr. Chair, I guess the other big part of the budget is all the projects that are going on, sewer projects. So there's, you know, a lot of money appropriated, but a lot of that money is coming from loan proceeds through the DEFA program, so, through the Ohio Water Development Authorities. But a lot of the construction that you see going on right now, that's all sewer work. So, and that's been appropriated in the sewer fund. All EPA mandates, so.
thank you.
Call for the question.
Questions have been called in regards to the budget that's before us here tonight. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. If there's nothing more to come before this committee, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sayre, second by Mr. Schneider. Is there any further discussion?
Question?
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
You okay with that? How that went?
Arguments have been back. Thank you. Hey, Matt.